Okay, so what if instead of Marvel Rivals with Marvel characters, we had Marvel Rivals with Five Nights at Freddy's characters? Okay, listen, I wasn't gonna make this video, but I saw a video of someone saying that Marvel Rivals content was boring. I have the solution. This is it. So, without further ado, Fnaf Rivals. So, our first category is Vanguard, and our first Vanguard is Bonnie. Because in Fnaf World, he has both healing and offensive capabilities. Now, Fnaf World has no tanks. But obviously we needed to have Vanguard, so I thought defensive and offensive would fit. So we've got a very aggressive tank. I'm dropping the voice. He's a very aggressive tank because he's the most aggressive animatronic in most of the games. He's usually the first one you see. He uses his guitar as a melee, and then I was thinking like he can have a team up with Chica to disable map functions. Now what I'm thinking is the maps are a little different than Rivals, where like the point is you gotta fight to kill a security guard first maybe, and there's things that you can activate like doors, and maybe Bonnie can temporarily disable those. He can buff his team, he can maybe like for a short time, he gives his team haste and defense. And then I was thinking a pizza shield would be really on brand. Next up, I have Springtrap. I know he would work really well as a DPS, but I thought it would be interesting to have him as a tank. He would be a very offensive tank, kind of like Thor or Junker Queen. Like, he barely protects his team. He's just really big with a lot of health, very much a distraction. He can spring lock people and stun them, kind of like Hulk's Exile. And then I was thinking he would have a team up with Glamrock Freddy, Baby, Golden Freddy, and Ballora, which gives him a fire projectile called Family Hearth. Cause haha, it's the Afton family, and he's always on fire! Next, I have Monty. I think he would work as a tank. I was kind of struggling to come up with exact mechanics for him. Maybe he uses golf balls, and he summons them like bubbles, protective bubbles. And he is very aggressive. Maybe he can break through obstacles. Maybe he has a charge attack. Next, I have Jacko Chica. I know that's a kind of an odd pick over Nightmare Chica, but I think she would have some interesting differences in using fire. Maybe she has fire shields that damage enemies, or she has little like jack-o'-lanterns that attack. Next is Nightmare Fredbear. I think he would have damage over time attacks because in Fnaf World, he has a lot of poison attacks. So I think that would be interesting, especially like it represents the damage over time of the trauma and the fucking, he has a bite your face ability. Also, he teleports and his ult is like Dark Child, but it's Nightmare. And then finally, we have Glamrock Freddy. He is probably the sweetest and most protective of the tanks. And I was thinking it'd be a really interesting mechanic if he could pick up other people into his belly and run. Like if you have a support that's being cornered, you can just run in, grab them, dump them in your backline. I think you have to kind of counteract how OP that is by having the person who's inside that can't do anything. Maybe if they're a healer, they grant slight healing over time, but otherwise it's just like they can't do anything, so you gotta trust each other and there's gotta be communication. But I think that would really work. That would be a very interesting mechanic for a tank. Real quick, if you made it this far, consider doing some cool algorithm things. A like, a subscribe, maybe comment your favorite animatronic. It would help me out a lot. Anyway, back to it. Okay, so next category is our duelists. Our first duelist, you gotta have our main man, Freddy Fazbear. I think he would have very crowd-based attacks because in Fnaf World, a lot of his attacks hit multiple enemies. Maybe like Moonknight, but with pizza or microphones, something dumb like that. He can move very fast, but watching him weakens him. Kind of like in the first game where you have to keep the cameras up and check on him. I think there could be a Dead by Daylight-esque mechanic in here, kind of like Ghostface, where you have to watch him. So you gotta be really sneaky. And I think all the Withered versions could be skins. I think Foxy would be a very fast flanker. He'd be like Psylocke, and his attack speed is buffed when out of sight. So less than weakening him, so we don't have just like a lot of sameness. It's just when he's out of sight, he's buffed. So a lot of stealth and a lot of like just jump scaring other players. So Endo I added because he just like, I don't really know the Endo character. Like, I'm not too interested in the Endo character, but it does seem to be a staple in all the rosters. So I think he would be a supportive DPS, kind of like Storm. Like, he reinforces his teammates' Endos to up their damage or defense. I think that'd be, I don't know, because Endo isn't really a character, he's just a guy. Maybe we could factor in the security breach Endos and have him weakened when in view as well. Golden Freddy, looking at him buffs him. So like the Cam 2B where you see him and then so it's a reverse. He can also stun. I feel like that makes sense. I mean, a little bit of spring lockiness and then also teleport. I think he would be, I know, because it's Golden Freddy, but you also don't want to have a meta character, but also I want him to be kind of ridiculous. Maybe a really high skill ceiling, really high skill floor as well, but like also very powerful. Mangle, I think she should be able to climb on walls, and his whole kit would be about just like climbing up walls, dropping on people, fucking biting people, real gremlin behavior. And I think the Funtime Foxy V1 would be a skin. I know Fnaf World splits them up into 2 characters, but I couldn't think of anything unique, so they're 1 character. Funtime Freddy, I think Bon Bon is a little critter. my notes are just Bon Bon is a little critter that gets loose. I just spat all over my screen. Honestly, I'm factoring a lot of Dead by Daylight, which I think makes sense. So, like the twins in Dead by Daylight, which if you don't know, one goes stationary and the other you just let loose. I think that could be interesting. I don't really know any other like unique mechanics that Funtime Freddy would have, but I think having the sister location cast makes sense. Baby, I couldn't quite decide what Baby should go in. I decided Duelist, but I think like she's so big, she would work as a tank. And maybe she could work as a healer, but I went with DPS for now. I think she has interesting movement with the roller skates, and she has a scoop claw E. Maybe she can also grab enemies. That'd be interesting. With Nightmare Freddy, his Freddles can be attached to buff and protect allies. I think that'd be interesting. Or they can go after enemies. Honestly, he could work as a support even, because I feel like his Freddles should be a unique mechanic, and I think it'd be fun to have them buff allies. Okay, speaking of support, here is our support roster. So first off, Chica. I didn't really have a specific reason besides just her being a healer in Fnaf World, because the girl's always got to be the healer for some reason. But whatever. She drops healing cupcakes like Jeff's bubbles. So she throws them out, you run them over, you heal. She maybe like a low damage mercy type, has aimbot. The very like beginner healer character, like Dagger, Luna Snow. Just very, very easy to play healer. Very simple. With Toy Freddy, I think his E puts down like a party favor that lightly heals and debuffs allies within like a certain radius. And then he's got mic projectiles. I think having Toy Freddy be a healer would be interesting. Okay, so Toy Bonnie and Toy Chica both have really similar mechanics in FNAF 2. So I thought it would make sense to just have them be like Cloak and Dagger. Toy Chica heals and Toy Bonnie does like a lot of chip damage and crowd control, because I think in FNAF World, Bonnie has a lot of like chip damage and crowd control stuff. And then my friend was like, no, have Sun and Moon as Dagger. And I was like, oh wait, you're so right. So I've had them both, because who needs originality? There's two-pack characters, except more exactly like Cloak and Dagger. I mean, like, Dagger is Sun, Moon is Cloak. It's like perfect. Marionette, I think this was a pretty obvious choice. Adam Warlock type. Revives, huge damage, maybe not as much healing. And then in FNAF World, all of their abilities are roulette-based, randomized. So I think that'd be kind of fun to add. So if they're looking at a foe, they're more likely to debuff them, but sometimes they'll buff them. And it's a random debuff, like less defense, less damage, whatever. And if they're looking at a friend, it's a random buff, most likely, sometimes a debuff. I don't know if that just makes Marionette a shit character, but it's funny. Funtime Foxy, I feel like would just be a healer. I don't know exactly how it would work, because you don't get a lot of interaction with Funtime Foxy in the game. He's got like sparkly ranged attacks. I don't know. And then I thought Blora would make sense because she's motherly and is possibly Mrs. Afton, maybe. So I think she would be a healer. She climbs on walls though. Maybe her mini arenas can help. Maybe she can debuff enemies with her mini arenas or help. So a lot of like attachment characters. A lot of these characters have little guys. I hope you guys enjoyed. This was a really funny little video, kind of meant for April 1st-ish. And I left a lot of characters out, so if you have any specific ones you want to add, like I know I left most of the Rockstar characters out. So yeah, let me know if there's anything you want. I'm always happy to hear your guys' thoughts. Otherwise, if you could do the cool algorithm things, that would be much appreciated. I've got other Rivals content planned. And if you like Fnaf content, I'll make Fnaf content. So yeah, otherwise, have a lovely day.